Wham, bam, thank you, man. It is happening.
Hello.
We're just going to be dancing the entire time.
Feels like it's just been so long since I've been on here with you. It's amazing.
Yes. And we're going to be doing this with the Razor himself. You know,
yes.
Oh my gosh, we're about to watch your match. It is Adam Witt, the Razor. How you doing, my dude?
Oh, I'm doing great. There's nothing I want to do more than to relive this match as many times as possible. This match was recorded a few weeks ago, and I got to relive it today. And I'm excited to relive it all over again right now. Such a good match.
I honestly, I know you kind of, I know you say that it's kind of sarcastically because it is a loss. And guys, spoilers ahead, heads up. We're just going to go right into it. This is not a reaction. This is a match breakdown. We're going to go over the numbers. We're going to go over the profiles, the characters, all that good stuff. So
and if you haven't seen it, definitely watch it because there's some surprises.
Surprises. So many of them.
It is nothing if not a very entertaining match,
Exactly.
Yes, it was.
Very entertaining match. We are, like I mentioned, we're going to be going over the numbers with our ever lovely Miss Megs. Hey, what's up, my girl?
Oh, always want to look at the numbers. Always want to dive into these lovely numbers that I have here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Always. Lovely.
You're the numbers person over there, huh?
I am. Yes.
Megsy numbers.
that has been thrown around.
Numbers. All right, well, Adam, okay, before we kind of go into this match itself, or before we kind of pull up the match, we're going to be diving into the numbers of this match in particular, and this is an interesting one, like I mentioned. Actually, shnikes, I just realized I did not pull up the stats. My bad. If I can pull it up, that'd be great. Wait, did I not download the stats?
I have a feeling your record is broken in this one, and it's not the record that you want to break.
Well, this is...
We'll get there. We'll
see.
Yeah.
We'll get there for sure. Megs, could you actually work on adding the stats real quick?
Yeah.
No, I feel bad because I thought I added them, but apparently I downloaded the intro video again. I didn't download.
Oh, okay. Very good. Not a problem. I've got it all here. I got you, girl.
This is why you're the queen bee. In the meantime, there's a lot of lame PLD in the chat. What's up with that? I'm obsessed with that. Yes, see two-way time. Absolutely. And just want to say thank you so much for the handful of people that are here with us so quickly. Just really, really appreciate it. And do you have this?
All right. Mm-hmm. All right. It should be in there, my dear.
Okay, perfect. You are a godsend. Okay, I feel really bad. Okay.
I just have a really good organization on my computer. So, all right.
Yeah,
so
interesting match. Mm-hmm.
This is a very interesting match to look at. So coming out of round one, it was pretty even. You guys, the Misfits were up 14-13 going into round two. You guys elect to have the Wishing Power go first. They spin away from disaster movies, but end up with Kurt Russell and are only able to take 3 points out of that match, leaving you guys with 4 opportunities to steal on multiple choice, and you capitalize on all 4, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, I'm sure it did. Then we go down to your guys' spin. You guys do decide to take directors on the first spin, and you are able to get 6 points out of there, getting 2 questions straight for 2 points. 2, you do jump down to multiple choice, and you do give up, unfortunately, 2 multiple choice steals, which they are only able to capitalize on 1 of them. So when it comes to steals, you guys were definitely much higher on the accuracy with your steals. So you guys are up 24-17 going into that third round, which is where
it felt so good. So good.
Absolutely. It's a great, up 7 points is typically a really great place to be in because it just gives you a lot of options. They are able to hit all 10 points. They're in round 3. Hitting comedy, Leonardo DiCaprio, and the 1990s. Very impressive. And then we get to when you guys hit your questions, it's some things fell apart there. Unfortunately, you guys were not able to hit any of your round 3 questions, which brings you to some interesting stats on your accuracies and potential points earned, because you guys were a more accurate team. You guys hit 22 out of your 29 questions. They hit 19 out of 27. But because you guys were not able to hit points in the 3rd round, that shifted your potential points earned, which ultimately allowed them to get away with the victory there. So kind of some interesting flip-flops when it comes to the numbers, with you guys having a higher accuracy, but because of the loss of more points, of more valuable questions at the end, that is what kind of swayed the match there.
I mean, when's the last time you saw someone get all 3 in round 3 and someone else miss all 3 in round 3? I mean, I don't feel like I've ever seen that.
I feel like I feel like there was a singles match that happened in fairly recently where someone, well, actually, no, it wasn't even that. I think it was, it might have been the Roca Collins match where he was not able to hit anything in round 3, and that gave over the TKO. But it does not happen often. Yeah. And definitely coming back from a 7-point deficit is a pretty impressive hill.
That might be a record, right? That might be a record.
It may be. I would have to check the full record. Yeah. But
don't worry about it.
I will do it now. But you guys get all the points for style and flair. All the points for that.
Much like high school, I'm not here to win. I'm here to entertain.
Well, that's the thing. Honestly, Kate, I'm gonna be cheering. Okay, I have a thesis. We haven't created a segment in this show in our breakdowns where we talk about like our big takeaways or like theses from the match. But watching this match, it really solidified an idea I have about the dungeon. It also the future of the dungeon as well. So stay tuned for that. Just saying.
This solidified a lot of people's opinions on the dungeon.
You just you wait, Mr. Adam. Just you wait. Okay?
She has a theory.
We're the back of the class, kids. Go ahead.
Just you wait. Real quickly, we also got a little super chat from Mr. Mukbang Reviews, and so thank you so much for that little Vatican pick. I'm a huge fan of Alex, and Megs is amazing with the stats, which is totally true. Girl, what up? And this was a fascinating match to watch. Yes, I loved all the participants. Thank you so much, Mukbang Reviews. And I'd say, like I said before, it's like I think that's a picture from the Vatican, and I appreciate it. Okay, now again, guys, I just want to let you know we are going to be going into a lot of spoilers of this match. We are not going to be talking about the promos or as amazing the promos were.
They were amazing.
As hilarious as they were. We're talking about the match exclusively, so no post interviews, all that good stuff. So if that's something if you wanted to check out, awesome. But I definitely recommend checking out the match itself because we're going to be skimming right over that. Okay, so
trust me, you want to watch the match. It's a good match. I just disagree with my performance.
The thing is, I mean, like, we're gonna kind of talk about that later, but I mean, like, this is such. I actually think you actually performed pretty well, all things considering. But again, we're gonna go into that a little bit later. Megs, please do the honor of pulling up that screen.
Yes. So we are going to be having this playing in the background without the sound on, and we'll just kind of be narrating as we go along. So we're jumping in.
Flash of genius.
So we're jumping right in here into round 1. So ironically, you guys are in Mad Max Fury Road attire, and this first question.
I mean, that is good luck. That is a good sign right there. That made me feel like I was like, we are born under a good sign for this match. And for a good portion of it, we definitely were.
Absolutely. It was definitely a lot of fun to start. I started reading that question. I said, oh, this is just too good.
It's also one that kind of freaks you out because you're like, too easy. Wait, did they say franchise? Yeah. Wait, am I supposed to mention the actual? Like, I mean, when I held up Mad Max, I was like, this feels like it's about to be a classic Adam miss. Like that I didn't hear the part where they said they didn't say franchise, and I thought I heard franchise or something. Because I'm like, it's too easy, and I'm dressed like Mad Max. I'm going to screw this up.
Well, that's what I was a little curious about is like how did you and Eric decide to, do the promos and costumes and all that good
Oh,
stuff?
and shout out
Going
right here
into
too, relevant question, although it wasn't at the
yeah.
time because we just lost Sean
Yes.
Connery. That was cool.
Yes, the second question about the first night film and him playing King Arthur.
Well, the costuming idea came from originally our name was going to be the War Boys, just because we like Mad Max, and then we thought, oh, that's a great theming thing. Like we want to dress like movie characters, so I'm like, all right, War Boys, we could dress all Mad Max. I love Mad Max movies, love Mad Max,
So good.
and Zipper too. Zipper watches Fury Road like every day. I mean, he jokes about that here, but he actually does watch it pretty much every day. So we got into the costuming thing, and then Christian said, well, that might be copyrighted, from that. So we started looking for other names and other ideas, but we thought we'll keep the post-apocalyptic theme. We tried Post-Apocalypse Now, but it was like kind of considered too long a name, there was a few others. We were Scum and Villainy for a long time, but then finally Christian's like, not really into that. And then I think Christian got tired of after about 30 some names, Christian got tired of answering texts or whatever. And so then finally Kaiser was like, I don't know, how about it's got to be something like, I like the War Boys. And he's like, like the Misfits, like the band. And he's like, and Christian's like, oh, I like that. So we just basically, out of being tired of giving too many names, Christian's like, the Misfits, go for it. Leave me alone.
Calm down, guys. Calm down.
But we kept the post-apocalyptic thing.
I love it. It was okay. So it sounds like it was definitely a group effort trying to like not only come up with the name and the theme and all that good stuff. Now, okay, so you guys have played more matches obviously than Perry and Haley overall. Perry, she's returning to Schmoedown after a long time, and same as Haley. Now, even though you guys have played significantly more than this duo this season, they do have a history, obviously. Now, how did you guys prepare for this brand new team? How did you analyze stats, or did you not kind of go with your gut? What'd you do?
Before I answer that, this sucks because there's a couple real weak points I have, and one of them is I've never seen Love Actually. And there's a couple movies where I'm like, every time we go into one of these matches, I go, ooh, I really need to, like at one point it was Mean Girls. Now I've seen that like 20 times or whatever. But, but the first match with Paul, I was like, oh, they ask a lot of Mean Girls questions. I know I'm going to get a Mean Girls. But right here was my weakness, which is Love Actually, which prevents me from getting a perfect round, which would have been my first perfect round, and could have made that 2-pointer in round 3 irrelevant if I had hit that right here, if I just watched that movie. Sorry, what was the question again, Alex? What was our preparation for it?
Oh, well, how did you prepare as a team to go against, the Witching Power that have never played as a team before? Well, neither of you guys, but you guys have played more this season by comparison.
Right, and Zipper and I are on a lot of Zoom calls, so there's a lot of dungeon trains together a lot, and I was surprised when we all got drafted. As soon as we started doing training, it was like everybody's there. You're like, it's Smets and Drew and Kaiser and me and Zipper. So even if we're training, Smets for the IG match or Parker for IG, it's like all of us on there. So what's fun is I got to interact with Eric a lot, and we just got along really well. And I've always said the best way to train is, the way I got to know any of this stuff to begin with. Oh, I'm so happy I got this one right. Because that's one of those
comedies. Yeah.
Well, because this movie, I haven't seen this movie, but I'm aware of this movie, Booksmart, and but it's like one of those titles too that's maybe slightly generic. That I'm like, it's like I freaked out at first. I'm like, I know exactly what movie they're talking about, but then it just came right to me. So I was like, okay, good. This is all going. I'm not having any brain farts so far in this match. But so Zip and I, we always treat this like a video store. And I do training. I do what I call video store training, which is like, you have those sort of like when I used to work in the video store, the conversations you'd have with clients, people that were coming in, is the way I got to know all this stuff. It's like, I knew what I knew, but people would come in and go, "Hey, do you have any Sidney Lumet movies?" And I'm like, "Oh God, I don't know what movies are Sidney Lumet's." And the guy's like, "You don't know Sidney Lumet?" And there was a guy sat me down one night. This guy in my old video store used to ride up on his motorcycle and rent lots of Sidney Lumet movies. And he's like, and we didn't have that many. But that sort of conversation of like, you go back and forth and you go, "Oh, you don't know this? Oh, okay, cool. Let me ask you a few questions about that." Like Zip and I. When we first, before COVID happened, we went to the New Beverly and we saw Clute, which is a Jane Fonda movie, a detective movie with, I'm blanking out right now, but Clute. And it's an Alan Pakula movie. And I'm a big Alan Pakula fan. And he knew Alan Pakula. And so just while we're standing in line to go to see Clute, it's nothing but Alan Pakula talk. And what did you like about, Pelican Brief? What did you like about All the President's Men? All that sort of stuff. So we have a lot of conversations like that, the traditional, geeky, I'm working behind the video store counter at the video store conversations. And we relate like that. That's just how he approaches movies. That's how I approach movies. And that's what makes a good team. Because you could kind of like Paul and I, like we could finish each other's sentences. We can read each other's mind. I know I can set up a joke for Paul and he knows what I'm doing and he'll knock it down. Same thing with Zipper. If I throw up a reference, he'll knock it down.
That's great.
Well, it sounds like obviously you guys really work together efficiently, part of a team. And, unfortunately, obviously you lost in this match. How do you feel like, how do you reflect on your teamwork watching this match?
Pretty good. Pretty good. That's one thing we probably could train on more. And I have to, I only learn by doing these matches. So this is my first team's match with a different partner. Paul, I've known for 20 years. Eric, I've known for 2. So, but obviously the Schmodown, the great thing about the Schmodown is, you've met us. All these people have a very like-minded approach to life. We all understand each other and where we're all coming from. So, much like my first match with Paul, I made very specific mistakes. And I learned from those. I did not make those mistakes again. The second time I played with Paul, I made maybe different assumptions, not mistakes as much, that I could then take into choices for the wheel or something like that. But the one thing from this one, and you don't really find it until you get it in real time, although now that I've done it, I know I can come up with an exercise that will get it to work, because I'm also an old school improviser. I went to Second City Improv School, all that stuff. So what matters here that, again, I don't think Zip and I are bad at, but it's just we're unpracticed with, and he's an improviser. So, but we didn't really get to practice that sort of give and take, yes and sort of thing where we could read each other's mind and use very few words in round 2 to get each other to the thought process. So in a lot of these questions, I will, the 4 choices will come up, and in my head, I'm like, Alan Parker wasn't working at this time. The first question is actually the author of the book. I know he's not a director.
Yes.
You don't have time to go through all that thought process, but I could knock off at least 2 of the 4, which is, an essential talent, I think, for this sort of thing, is that I can knock off every time there's a multiple choice. I can knock 2 off the board right away. And salute to PJ. There's 2 I can't knock off the board each time too. Like, he's really good at that. Oh, there goes my light. Hold on a second here. Let's make sure I'm looking pretty. So it just would be that sort of like, if Eric and I had improvised together, I think we would immediately have a lot more of narrowing down the choices, where I could say it's one of these 2 guys, and then get to the bottom of Zip's thinking very quickly. There's a couple of these here where I had to get into his thought process, and I was working too much off of my own thought process, realizing like, oh, 2 of these guys are off the list for me. But then there was one where one of the ones I thought was off the list, he brought up, but since I didn't have a better answer, I again, very much trust Zip. So I just went with like pure mutual trust. And there's no time to argue it otherwise too. So you really do have to trust each other. So when he says James Bobin, I'm like, I don't have a better reason why the other guy could be the director. So, and yet there's a chance it's James Bobin. But that sort of thing. That's coming up, that question.
Well, and the fact that you guys were able to instantly go, okay, we need to go down to multiple choice on this, to not give those potential 2-point steals up is definitely a testament to your guys' skill as competitors overall to understand the game and understand the strategy behind it when you're in those kind of tough situations, when you don't instantly know what it is.
I had a problem in several matches where I forgot there was multiple choice. I'm glad other people have done this too, because otherwise it feels like a real
they all do.
Yeah, no-brainer. Because you get into the mode of the first round, and again, like movie trivia, this is something that, as a video store employee and stuff, this is what you would do. Well, there were no multiple choice, it's like, oh, I don't know that. I don't know. But in this, you're like, oh, multiple choice. So, I mean, you could see, I think of maybe the second question, as soon as I'm like, oh, geez, I don't know. And I had forgotten that there's multiple choice. So it's nice having a partner there to go multiple choice. I'm like, oh yeah. You can see me do it here too. You go, oh, that's right. That's a thing.
Well, it's actually kind of funny you say that, because I know you guys kind of said that, as far as like, because watching you, there's something I noticed about you, because as a competitor, I can see the wheels turning.
Yeah.
You always, like, you being you want, I think it's also like the performer in you. You want to explain the reason why behind it. So it's very difficult for you to say this and that and just cut it off. You want to be like, okay, it's because of, like you said, it's because it's too early. That's the author. I know that's the case, or whatever it may be. So it was kind of watching you, I could see the reason why you kind of picked around it. But like you said, I also feel like a lot of people don't realize, especially if you're on screen, how quickly those 10, 15 seconds go.
So fast.
When you're trying to analyze and you're sometimes you're just trying to remember what was A and B again? Wait, do I want to risk it? Wait, is this multiple choice? What? Kind of thing.
Where am I?
And that's really a good training thing too, because I think sometimes in the training, we're not as relentless with the 15 seconds. You really want to be able to just go through a lot of questions and figure it out, figure out why I didn't know that. And, well, that's directed by that guy. Okay, well, then he works with that actor a lot, or whatever conversation you have, But I think the 15-second time trials is a very specific training to do. Before one of the next match I have or whatever, it would be nice to do an Ironman, even if they're old questions or whatever, just to have that sort of 15-second to know that mentally, to do 100 questions. This is a very Kevin Smith's way of training. So just that amount of time is in your blood.
Well, it's actually funny you say that. Because whenever I do have my little mini training sessions, I do it every 2 weeks or so with my faction and the fan leagues. There's a warm up thing that I do.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
I have a wheel warm up exercise where I give them hypothetical wheels, and especially because I have a few teams, and I give them. I'm like, hey, you have 15 seconds to not only analyze but communicate with each other what you want to use. Okay, explain your strengths and weaknesses in such quick time. You have 15 seconds, go. And because we want to get it done as efficiently as possible, because we want to use as much time as you can to strategize and talk with a manager, because you do have 1 minute to talk with the manager when they're there. And like you said, it's so hard to do if you don't practice it. So I always am so adamant in practicing with a time, and I'm and I counting down. It's really hard though.
I remember hearing in some,
and you're like, oh shoot, no.
I know, but it really gets it into your brain. You're like, this is what 15 seconds feels like. This is what 15 seconds feels like. Yeah. But yeah, I remember there was some a success book I read or whatever about some basketball coach that had this top 10 team or whatever. It's John Wooden or something like that, and he came in to coach this team, and the team had already won championships, something like that. And he goes, all right, today we're going to dribble. And all these champions are like, dribble? And he's like, yeah, dribble up and down the court. That's it. Dribble. We're just dribbling today. And it's you can take anything and break it down to that fundamental thing. Don't mess up dribbling. I don't care how good a 3-point shooter you are. Don't mess up dribbling. And so that 15 seconds is that's a real fundamental type thing, as much as knowing the And also, if you're not afraid of 15 seconds, then, say, I have a famous brain fart coming up in this match, but that doesn't then, as soon as I didn't know that one, I really didn't know that one because my brain went, oh no. And then my brain's paying attention to nothing else. And that's why I used 2 JTEs on that. And I was like, I better save the last JTE. I just don't know if this is coming to my brain, even though I 100% absolutely know every movie this actress has been in. I just can't remember her name.
Yeah, sometimes it just like sometimes it clicks, and other times it's just like I know the face, not the name, or I know the name, not the face, and am I mixing it up? It's kind of wonky how that happens. Sometimes out of nowhere.
Harley Quinn.
Right. It's like you kind of answered a lot of these questions already, but Mukbang Reviews, again, he donated. Thank you so much, my dude. Never seen Adam before, but you and Zip did great. Your knowledge and recall are impressive. Did you study hard or watch films and retain this information? I do feel like you, obviously, I know you kind of answered that you do study, but when it comes to the how you study with Eric and everything, do you feel like you're, when it comes to watching movies, do you watch a movie once and then you're done for a while, or are you more like a repeat viewer?
I'm a repeat viewer, and I think it was Rachel Silvestrini that told me when I first had my first match and lost, and I was just like, oh yeah, studying. So that's the thing you guys do? You study? Because
concept.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, why would I study movies? I mean, I do study movies. Like anybody in the Schmodown studies movies without doing a. Well, I'm saying without
a novel idea to study for this a while ago, until like a season to like 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'm saying there's 2 different uses of the word study. There's Kevin Smith's, Mike Kalinowski's study, right? Booklets, binders, this sort of thing. And then there's just like, I study life, but I don't take notes as much as I should. You know what I'm saying? Like there, you can study things by just being a curious individual. I'm a curious individual, and I've always loved being able to talk movies and meet the sort of people I can talk movies with. And that has caused a lot of study without being the Kevin Smith's version of studying. So when I say I use that separately, like, well, of course I've always studied movies, but yes, then what you're saying there is you have to get down. But what Rachel said to me is that she had heard from somebody, study the movies you already love. And because and I see the value in that too, because you're like, yes, I have seen Batman Returns 100 times, and yet now that I've done Schmodown matches, when I watch Batman Returns, I go, oh, I never noticed that the van is called from this something, whatever company. Like the what's the name of the company in Star Trek 4 that makes the plastic steel or whatever. Like that's the sort of stuff that Smeth's got that people are like, holy shit, how did he know that? That's the sort of stuff that you, again, just watching a movie you already love, but now you watch it with the Schmodown eyes.
It's a different lens.
Yeah,
it's a different lens that you have to view movies through when you're thinking about it in terms of competition.
Yeah, if you sat me down with just flashcards right now for movies that I don't know if I'd retain any of that. But if I go watch that movie and then maybe look at flashcards or something, I'm now interested in that movie, not the words that compose that movie. That I feel as a death sentence, and I'll make fun of other competitors for that all day long, even though I'm sure I studied some version of that. But studying words, not movies, is no thank you. It wouldn't work anyway.
Well, everyone's a little bit different when it comes to the whole process. Like, I know, like Ben Bateman's, he's mentioned it numerous times. He takes an active effort to watch like a new movie every other day. And if he's training for a match, he watches like 2 new movies he's never seen before, like kind of outside his wheelhouse. Something if he's like, because he for a long time he considered like action adventure, his strength. But maybe he'll end up watching a drama or a crime movie, something that's kind of outside of his wheelhouse actively. But everyone's a little bit different. Now, we are going to be analyzing. Can you pull up the?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not squinting.
I'd take anything on that wheel. That is a great wheel.
There are disaster films, Kurt Russell, 2000s, comedies, horror, crime. Julia Roberts, Coen Brothers, directors, new releases, and of course, winners and opponent's choice. That's
Now-
not a bad wheel.
From the get-go, I can 100% pinpoint their strengths that they put on the wheel.
What did we put on there?
I think 100% the witching power put in
Oh.
new releases and horror.
Oh yeah,
Horror
that's
is-
pretty cool.
I'd be
And
surprised.
Carrie, she has received new releases book in the past, and she's went through it. It also helps that she's like an active movie critic.
Right.
So that makes sense.
Huge.
But with you guys, yeah, I know you said directors, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it's the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
Is it the Coen brothers?
Oh yeah, we love the Coen
Yes.
brothers, and we'd be unbeatable in Coen brothers. I don't know anyone that could get a point on us on Zip and I with Coen brothers. It's one of the first things we discussed, and we discuss like not even studying for matches. That's just something we discuss. If I'm watching, one night I was watching The Man Who Wasn't There, and I just started throwing lines at him because the lines just crack us up. And then he was watching A Serious Man. Yeah, A Serious Man. And, and just would throw lines at me. It was just cracking up. And so then we'd have lines back and forth. Yeah, love the Coen brothers.
Okay, well, honestly, I would say I hear you when it comes to the Coen brothers, and I believe you 100%. But at the same time, every time I've seen, because I've had people in my faction try to make Coen brothers a strength, it's failed numerous times.
Yeah, it makes something a strength if it isn't a strength.
Yeah, I've also seen people put on the wheel and thinking it was a strength, and it failed. Now, some people also have done really, really well with it. It's just you don't know. Thing is, it's just kind of a weird category because to me, the Coen brothers, they have a very specific writing style, and to me, almost all of their movies sound identical.
Yeah.
They have a lot of similar characters, the writing style, the quotes. I'm like, it could be like one of 5 movies. It could be Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It could be Fargo. It could be A Serious Man, or it could be, most recently, Hail Caesar.
Oh yeah, that's why we like the Coen brothers too.
It's kind of wonky. It really, really is. You just don't know. But I also think it's also kind of interesting because when it comes to narrowing it down, studying for very specific categories like that, if it's whether it be for a director or an actor like Julia Roberts, which I saw was also on the wheel, it usually they usually are slightly deeper cuts versus something like a decade or dramas or romance, because they're a tad more surface level, maybe actors, movie release dates maybe, or a director kind of thing. But when it comes to a category that's narrows it down, they're a little more plot specific.
Which one? What, the Coen brothers? Which one's more plot specific?
Especially if it is something like the Coen brothers or Julie Roberts or Jodie Foster or Steven Spielberg. I'm so scared of the Steven Spielberg category.
Yeah.
Terrified.
Well, that's the thing about a category like Spielberg or Julie Roberts is those movies are popular. So those movies are going to pop up more in a decade category or whatever. I know, Saturday Night Live came up, or no, Mel Brooks was on the wheel recently, and people were like, "Oh, Mel Brooks, that's great. I love Mel Brooks." Those movies have been picked over. So now that there's a Mel Brooks category, it's like in the 12 chairs, and you're like, oh, that's right, because Blazing Saddles comes up in comedies, it comes up in 70s, it comes up in westerns, so it's like there's no Blazing Saddles questions left. So you can make a Mel Brooks slice, but there's not a whole lot left,
I'll let you recycle.
I got a movie question for you about Mel Brooks.
To hit me.
All right. Okay. Mel Brooks makes a voice cameo in what 2019 family animated film?
Oh, Mel Brooks voices in an animated film in 2019. Well, there are not a lot of animated movies to choose from, and he did used to write for a spy TV show, so Spies in Disguise?
It was Toy Story 4. He cameoed with Carl Ruthers.
Carl Reiner, probably, right?
Brothers. Carl Reiner.
10,000-year-old man
in the same scene, so it's like kind of a funny moment.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's a great choice because that series has a lot of reverence for older comedians and stuff. Like a lot of the voices that they use are like Yeah, they're all classics. There are a lot of classic
Mhm.
comedians.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of funny. I feel like that's kind of like almost like a drinking game, being like, who did this? Name the reference.
Right,
There's so
yeah.
much throughout the movie. Pulling back up to the wheel again specifically, I know
Mhm.
you said looking at the wheel, Adam. You're pretty confident in the wheel overall. There's none in particular, that really kind of scared you or anything like that.
Yeah, I
Is
don't think so.
there? Now, that being said, now we're also going to go into them getting Kurt Russell.
Poor Witchy
What
Power.
was in your head when they got that category? Were you excited, or you're like,
Yeah, but then we were allowed to be told what they spun, but not
yes,
any of the questions or whatever.
of
So
course.
somebody put in the chat, that's what they spun. So
Mhm.
Zip and I just kind of were like, all right, well, what are some let's just run over Kurt Russell movies in case, something, they miss them. Nothing was, so we were just kind of naming off Kurt Russell movies behind the scenes.
Mhm.
But we can't see this. We can't see what's happening. It's a complete mystery to what they're getting right and wrong. So
Right.
it was shocking when it came back. Although I guess less shocking watching it here because look at this. This is a dude question, and I know,
I'm so excited
Right,
for this question.
and I know women know dude movies just as much. Men know chick flicks just as much, or whatever. And that's an unfair assessment. Except Kurt Russell is it's a more dude. This is a dude question right here.
There's two speaking roles for women in the movie.
Yeah, right. There's literally
Two
no
characters, and they're cool characters.
and so again, not being sexist or anything, but
men.
like if I put on a movie with only males in the cast with my mom, she's like, I'm done. I'm not into this. Like you got to have some strong female leads in the movie. Now here you go. Here's a movie that definitely. What's that?
Well, I was actually talked about it in the C2A chat. Remember that, Megs? Where I was like,
yeah.
I came across an article talking about how movies, like it was like a list of like 20 movies where women have no speaking roles.
Right.
One of them was Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
The other was 12 Angry Men. Another one was the Doctor Strangelove, I think. But there was a handful more, and I was like, oh shoot. And I think there's a difference between that and it's specifically a men's story, but also there are movies that are exclusively about girls. Like I've seen movies called like All I Want to Do with Kirsten Dunst, and the thing is, it's about a bunch of girls at a girls' boarding school. I don't expect to see a man all that much.
Right. Some of them can very much be culture based on what they're trying to portray and the content. So you can't necessarily judge an entire movie just based on that because that might have been the story they wanted to tell.
Again, Backdraft, dude movie. It's nothing but dudes in that movie. It's just not going to be as interesting. And again, not saying that like they would never watch Backdraft, but if it's on, get a tune out probably, right? It's not going to be as interesting. I can't imagine it could be. So that's tough.
Yeah, well, these categories, especially like you said, Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell, but man, like a lot of actors, these are very men-focused movies. These are masculine movies.
Yeah, it's not what they wanted to spin. It's not what they wanted to spin.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to casually come across that movie unless someone told me about it personally. And but
I feel like Russell has a pretty wide range that he does do, and they're kind of focusing in on some of those. It seems like these questions are kind of focused a little bit more on those more dude focused.
Well, and also this is an old movie. I mean,
he has several very old ones. Yeah.
Which is the value I tend to bring to a team. I'm older than Zip. This movie was big Oscars. I watched the Oscars when this was nominated, So and I could pick out from those others when we get that one. I could pick out very quickly which ones aren't. And there was two that it could be, which again, hats off to the question writers for the multiple choice. They're really aces with that. They really don't let you off easy. this one, I didn't see it in the theater, but this was, I saw a lot of movies in '86, and this poster was up at a lot of those movie theaters. And I was very curious about Robin Williams. I didn't really know who Kurt Russell was just yet at that time, but
I think this movie was actually his feature film debut, I want to say.
no,
No,
No.
was it not?
I don't think
was
so.
it Popeye? Was it Popeye? No,
it was
Oh,
Robin
Royal.
Williams.
Robin Williams. Yeah, well, for
Not his
Robin Williams,
debut,
I mean,
but yeah.
I remember Robin Williams, his face being on the poster for this
Yeah.
movie, and it's I think
But those were
it's
very
not
hard
a
questions.
hard question, but it's a movie people don't remember.
No.
It's not very
And-
recent. It's not exactly Pretty Woman.
And the great thing about these questions and how they're phrased, I say the thing that pisses me off when it comes to us, of course, is that the middle ones of round 2 are just so deliberately 3 and 5 pointer style hard,
Yeah.
they'll start you off with a fairly easy one. They'll end you with a fairly easy one, but in the middle, and this is what, we spin our strength here,
Mhm.
which is directors, but the middle 3 directors questions are directors who directed one movie. We got 3
Those are
questions,
rough.
They
Yeah,
had
well-
some really obscure ones in there.
really obscure. So,
Yeah.
I like directors because I'm into their career. I'm into, what the director of this made this and then this and then this.
Mhm.
Well, you ask me questions about a director who's directed one movie. I have not committed that career to memory because it's one director.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I mean, that's definitely a very, very difficult aspect and a risky aspect of choosing the director's category overall. I know you guys kind of chose that. You said you guys were both like very confident going into the category. You're like, hey, we're only 2 points ahead.
Yeah,
we
and
still got
they
12.
threw us for some loops. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's directors is a very, very difficult category unless you're like someone like Tom, obviously, or something like that. I mean, you're one of those people, but it's such a hard category. But I know individually, you both are able to really make some solid pulls. Were you surprised at these questions? Were they like you said? I know you said these are like these movies have are like 1 or 2 movies of their entire filmography from these directors, so they're a lot harder to do. But were you more like slapping yourself a little bit, being like, I should have known that, like obviously, or do you
No.
or you kind of
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So here you go. This is a famous movie, but not a famous director. This director has, I think, one other theatrical movie, and it's a documentary. He directed TV in the 50s and 60s. So nobody knows who this guy is. So this, again, is this the second question we get?
This is your guys'. We were watching the Steals earlier, so this is your second question, directors. This is Willy Wonka, Chocolate Factory.
Right.
Yep.
Roald Dahl wrote the book, not a director. Guy Hamilton was directing at that time. Mel Stewart, never heard of him. Alan Parker hadn't started directing yet. So I know it's Guy Hamilton or Mel Stewart, and it's out of pure trust that I get that Zip says Guy Hamilton, and I go, all right, it's the only other one I've heard of. But I didn't think it was Guy Hamilton. He's a James Bond director. This movie's going to come out in 1970. What year's Wonka? 74? So he.
someone tell us in the chat.
But again, okay, here you go. This movie was directed by the only movie this person's directed right here, Unbroken. So they're going very
Angelina
hard.
Jolie has directed, I believe, 2 movies.
She done 2? Okay. But yeah. But still, yes, not a huge career, and that's how they ask harder directors questions. The question writers know the harder directors to get are the ones with fewer movies. So that's what these 3 in the row here. That is yes, she's directed 2 movies. Mel Stewart has directed pretty much 2 theatrical releases, unless you include some 1950s ones I haven't heard of either, and most people haven't. But yeah, but see, here's the thing. Zip came right out of the gate and said Angelina Jolie. Now, the question is, do you just go with that and try and get the 2 points, which we could have, because there's no steal possibility there. If you don't give the multiples and you just go, let's try it. Let's try it. Angelina Jolie. Oh, we got it wrong? Doesn't matter. They're not going to get 2 points on that. So that's a strategic thing that, you can't think of it in the moment. Oh, this upsets me. I know this Rob Cohen so well. I'm having a brain fart right here. I'm like, oh, it's the director of Daylight, the director of Stealth, the director of a bunch of bad movies. Yeah.
How Fast and the Furious. Yep.
But we're so far ahead here that we're allowing ourselves. I didn't JT my way in to try and get a Rob Cohen answer, but then of course it comes right up. You're like, yep, Rob Cohen.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want to say it's a trick question, just because there's like 9 Fast and Furious movies. It's so easy to kind of get them mixed up, between Fast 5 and the 7th one. That kind
but he
of
never
thing.
directed another one.
Bond did one of them.
Well, back that up. Look at those answers. Back that up, because this is great, because for anybody but a solid Rob Cohen fan like myself, Simon West is exactly the sort of director who would absolutely make one of these movies, and he didn't. He made like The Phantom. John Singleton directed the second one. Dominic Sena, is that an actor? Anyway, it sounds like someone that would have directed one of these movies. But anyway, continue. These are very good fake choices.
We did get a few super chats from Mukbang Reviews again. This guy's been rocking all night. Thank you so much for Mukbang. Adam, you have a great personality and presence, very well on screen like Megs and Alex. Will you be competing next year? Also, who's your favorite manager? Would you like to tell us who your favorite manager is, Adam?
As a person or as a manager?
Well, okay, let's say hypothetically, Kaiser, obviously, he's all that bag and chips.
I like that guy.
But are there any other managers in particular that you just really enjoy, whether it be their management style or you just really love hanging out with them?
I would have for years been the first person to call Bobby Finstock a total dick, but I have been on his show a bunch of times, and I get the joke of his personality now, and he does make me laugh, and I think I would have fun with Finstock for sure. And it's not really a far stretch between him and Kaiser. They're kind of two of a kind. I mean, they have a show together, which I've been on shirtless. So
for sure. He donated.
Thank you for the compliments, though.
There's a lot of love, from Mukbang Reviews. What was the last film you saw in theaters? For me, it was 1917, and I loved it. I missed the theater, but also appreciate movies at home. What are your thoughts?
Oh, this is a great question, because man, we finally got a Alamo Drafthouse in Los Angeles, and Alamo Drafthouse is a superior movie delivery device. And I started now. Okay, no, well, and my favorite movie theater is the New Beverly. I have threatened to leave Los Angeles numerous times, thinking, maybe I'm done here. Maybe I haven't, maybe I'm just done with the experiment of living in Los Angeles. And I was like, but I can't leave the New Beverly. The New Beverly, for those who don't know, is a movie theater. Now, I've been going before Quentin Tarantino owned it, but Quentin Tarantino took over the building about 6 years ago, and then took over the theater about 4 years ago and started programming it himself. There isn't a significant difference between when he didn't program it, because it felt like a Quentin Tarantino program movie theater, and you could run into Quentin Tarantino there before he owned it. Once he owned it, it got a lot more not giving a shit whether it made money or not. Like, he programmed entire months that were just like, this is stuff I want to see, and I don't care if anybody comes to it, and didn't suffer any audience. The New Beverly is a godsend. I miss it so much. It is the movie theater of my dreams. When I first, the first film internet was created, there was Ain't It Cool News, and they would report there were 4 Quentin Tarantino film festivals in Austin, Texas, at the Alamo Drafthouse, back when there was only one Alamo Drafthouse. And I would read those obsessively, each rundown of everything that they would do. And it was just my dream festival. And I was even going to go to the 5th one, and then it got canceled, or something happened, or I couldn't go, or maybe I was going to go to the 4th one. Anyway, move here only to find that exact type of programming is happening at the New Beverly. And when Quentin takes over, it is literally the same programming. And I have an encyclopedic memory of everything I read from the Quentin Tarantino fests, and I've seen them all now, including a classic horror all-nighter at the New Beverly Cinema. And I am jealous of me getting to go to the New Beverly Cinema from the point of view of someone listening to me talk about it right now, because I've been there and it's the greatest thing on earth. Now, the Alamo Drafthouse, then they open that here, and that is doing new movies and stuff, but it is just the perfect cinema delivery place. But to go back to the very last movie I saw before everything locked down, there was already some scare in the streets. There was already some sort of like, I think America's going to have to lock down here. There was already, I had people I worked for were getting me hard drives and stuff because I was going to have to work from home and things like. There was already that sort of thing. And the New Beverly had yet to close, and they showed on a Friday the 13th, Jason X. So I guess it's going to be Friday, March 13th. Or April 13th is going to be when we lock down. And I was like, it was already the point of like, I'm scared of the outdoors. I was already scared of the outdoors. We hadn't started wearing masks yet. And I was like, oh, no, we had started wearing masks. No, there was no masks there. But I was like, I don't give a shit. I'm going and watching Jason X at the New Beverly because this may close down. And it closed down like the next day. So my last movie in theaters was Jason X, and God, I missed that in the Alamo Drafthouse so much. But the New Beverly, awesome. I mean, I have like, I got to show you this here because I was just cleaning up my room, and so I come across all this crap that I own here. But I'll show you this. This is just this gallery here. This will someday adorn my walls of a house that I own. These are every New Beverly calendar.
That is so cool.
They are just beautiful. Wow. This is the Halloween one right here. But look at that, showing the hills, and I have all of them from since I moved here. Here's the Hateful Eight Roadshow, and I have stacks of these things, and they're just gorgeous art. And someday I will own a house that will have an entire hallway of just these frames because. And I mean, and they're memories. I look at this and I'm like, I could tell you which one of these I went to. Oh, well, this right here. I mean, okay.
So why not? Of course.
That is the Nicholas Hammond Spider-Man. Nicholas Hammond was the Spider-Man of my youth. He was the TV Spider-Man. When I was a kid, there weren't live action movies, superhero movies of any regard. There was, you got one a year. And you had the Hulk TV show and Wonder Woman TV show, and occasionally you got a Spider-Man TV movie. There was a European cut of the Spider-Man TV movie, and they showed the European cut, and I got to watch it pristine print because that played 12 times in Thailand or something. It wasn't even released in America, and got to watch that and Spider-Man 2 back to back. I mean, the joy I'm feeling just saying that exists. I forgot about that till I looked at my New Beverly calendar. But anyway, what was the question?
You answered it, honestly. Considering that you're a huge fan of New Beverly, have you chat with Whitney Seibold?
No, that's what's so funny is Whitney and there's one of the other competitors also I think worked for there or writes for the website. Hoik? Doesn't Hoik write for the website? I think.
I'm not sure.
I read so much of Hoik's criticism and. Did Seibold work there, or did he write for the website? But no, we hadn't talked about it. But
he works there. Like he's actually a projectionist.
Oh, he's a projectionist. Okay, yeah. It's amazing. I've not seen Whitney there. I mean, now that we know each other, I might see him more if we were going there. But no, I'm very jealous though. I'm very jealous. Very jealous that he works.
This is definitely a Schmodown rom-com situation waiting to happen. This is the Schmodown cute.
I mean, why wouldn't Schmodown people run into each other at the New Beverly? That absolutely tracks.
Not so much a rom-com, but I mean, like when I think of rom-coms, I think of like friendships like forming, and I'm like, that's like my favorite.
Right? Did we just become best friends?
Did we just become best friends? Yes.
Did we just become best friends?
There's a lot of that in Schmodown.
That is also low-key became like the QT show, QT after show, Tarantino after show.
Right.
Overall. Oh my gosh. We anyway. Okay, we do need to go back to the match. I do also want to ask you. We're kind of wrapping up. Towards.
It's about to all go downhill here. So
on top of a point.
But there's another director right there one movie. That guy's made one movie.
And Maleficent.
Yeah, I don't like directors as a premise. I like them as careers. So these three questions
honestly,
were...
well, when you heard...
Oh, we lost you, Mac. We lost you, Alex.
We did lose you there a little bit. So, but yeah, I totally understand.
How many of those do I have left?
I totally understand the idea of like how a director only having, 1, 2, maybe 5 at the most, there's not much to pull from necessarily for them on that. So I totally understand.
But here's the skill is that, okay, Bill Condon directed Beauty and the Beast. That's a kind of similar sort of Disney adaptation. Rob Marshall has also done Disney adaptation. So those two are kind of likely. I didn't think James Bobin, I know he's in that universe in that he does Muppets, but I thought, Maleficent, and yet some kind of more animated guy did end up doing like the Maleficent sequel or something. So it sounded like it could track for me. These are tough answers right here. These are 4 absolutely possible directors of that stupid movie. And one of them did direct the sequel, I think.
I was like, I was narrowing down my head because I kept thinking Rob Marshall. He did Mary Poppins Returns, and yeah, and I was like narrowing it down. I was like, Bill Condon, he did that one, but I don't think he did multiple ones.
And then I was like, Candyman 2.
Yeah, things like that. And I was just like, and I'm like, it has to be one of the first 2, but I don't know.
Thank God for this one here, right here.
I'll say, them
more musicals than anything.
Yeah, them throwing in 1990 Home Alone is like, okay, let me give you something that you can get.
Right. Well, I think it's like the first and last are more traditional 2-pointers, and the middle ones are certainly more threes, maybe 5s, kind of. So, but that's just how good the question writers are. I mean, they really have a sort of like codified how these pace out, and it's really nice. Those were really, I mean. And the last time that Paul and I played Shazam, we got directors and we aced that all 2s. So yeah, the chances of an all 2s for directors, I'm glad they're starting to get rid of these directors that only made one movie out of there, because then that's going to leave the ones that have made more than one movie, which I'm good at. So I probably would keep that category again.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes and there have been plenty of competitors who they take their favorite
directors. Again, it's a very category overall.
Yeah, it definitely can be a hit and miss based on what questions they pull and how many they're trying to recycle through. So, and especially being able to pull questions from previous matches will also start taking some effect in these matches as well. So hopefully we see it kind of even out. As we go along, definitely.
I have a feeling they saved that for the regular season and not for the tournaments. I feel like in the tournaments, I haven't seen any repeats.
That's very true. Yeah,
tournaments are harder questions.
Which makes sense. Tournaments and championships, you definitely want to.
And I have a feeling in a regular season, you wouldn't see these 3 directors that are 3 and 5 point ones in the middle like this. That's more of a tournament style, which is like they're going to get real hard in the middle there.
That's very possible. Yes.
And same thing with the Kurt Russell. They got 3 real hard Kurt Russell questions in the middle,
Yep, absolutely.
And then, by the way, points to them. I forgot to say earlier, because, one of the questions was the answer was Tombstone, but the same year as Tombstone came out was Wyatt Earp. It was I mean, that is, they made it, I mean, the question writers tricked them, but they made a very logical, even though I was saying, that's a dude movie, they're not going to know about that. But they did answer fairly correct. That just the 2 Wyatt Earp movies came out in one year. Yeah,
another logical one to also come out at that same time. Yep. I had some cursory knowledge of Tombstone already, so like that was a fairly easy one for me to pull initially. But yeah, if I hadn't already known about it, that one would be tough to just pull recently. So let's see, we are kind of getting down here towards the end here. So I'm kind of fast forwarding back in through here.
Yeah, here we are playing our We Don't Give a Crap, which I don't know.
Watching this, I had a Snyder moment. Because Snyder, something he's mentioned is that, he's like, I totally he's like mentioned, I totally, when the time he lost to Ethan Irwin, you know, earlier this year, or it was like late last year, I can't remember, where he like lost to him because, and he said, if I had chose his numbers, I would have won. And, you know, I didn't choose those numbers, and I chose numbers with questions that I lost. It's kind of weird how that happens, because I heard all of the Witching Powers questions, and I'm like, I knew them like that. You know, I was like 100%
They pick good numbers.
no question.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, they pick those good numbers. The good, it's the sexy numbers. Thank you, Roxy.
Yes.
But sometimes, like, if you pick unlucky numbers, that sucks. But sometimes it's weird how that happens. You know, all of the questions for someone else, none of your own, and you know that shit happens way, you know, more often than we'd like to admit, honestly.
Yeah, I did try to when I should have just thrown 3 numbers out, because what's the point of discussing it? It doesn't even make any sense. You know, but you know, I went with 19, which is my lucky number, and it's my birthday. And because I was born in a year that began with 19, the number 19 is twice in my birthday. But so I guess the right one for that. And then Kaiser said 15, and you'll hear me in this match. I
heard that.
I go, can I change 15? Because I'm like, I don't trust Kaiser's number, and I want to change it. I want to change it to, because Zip went with 1, because I was going to go 19, 1, and 9. And then he said 15. We said 15, and then I think Zipper said 1.
Yep, he did.
And I go, oh my God, that is 1 number away from what I was going to say. I said, let me just change 15 to 9. And Harloff wouldn't let me. I should have complained, but I just was like, you know what? I don't like Kaiser's numbers. So anyway, what if I guessed 9?
Well, Kaiser's I feel like he's a really great manager for a lot of different things, but also it's kind of funny where when it comes to giving advice on picking numbers or slices of them, it's kind of funny. He's kind of similar to Dagnino, where people like where Kaiser or Dagnino would offer these suggestions, and the competitors would be like, no, I'm going with this one instead.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny how that happens every once in a while. Especially it's in particular to these managers, you know, because I don't see that all that much happening with like Kate or Winston or anything, but Kaiser and them, it's just like it's a suggestion, but they're like, nah.
You know, I really need to be, because I am a classic in real life. I'm a classic smooth it over type of guy. Like, hey, if there's any strife in the room, let's just smooth that over. Let's just, hey, would you say 15? Great. Hey, he says 15. I want him to feel included, so I'm going to say 15. But the great thing about the Schmodown is I'm playing a jerk. I can heal it up and go, nah, that's a stupid number, Kaiser, 9. You know, and nobody's going to hold it against me, even though that really is my thought in the moment. Is nah, that's a terrible number. Let's not go with that. You know. So I think I need to be less. You know. Okay. You have that suggestion? Great. That must be valid, and be a little more authoritative. Like,
well, that's something
I do know what I'm talking about.
It comes with experience and comfortability within your team. So.
I think, everyone's a little bit different. Some people like to go back and forth. I feel bad. Like sometimes when I'm with my faction, and I pretty much tell them which numbers to pick. I'm like, hey, 2, 5, 9, done. Because I've had competitors in the past where they start over analyzing, just picking the numbers, and that makes them nervous. And where they get anxious thinking of it, and they start over analyzing which numbers. Well, they picked this because of that, or lucky numbers. I'm like, and I actually take that power away from them unless they're like really comfortable. But like a lot of times, especially if they're in a belt match or anything along those lines, I take away that control from them to kind of make them take a moment to relax.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's psychological, but everyone's a little bit different. Some people require that, that feeling of control taking in those small moments, and some people don't want it.
Now look right here. Look how easy the psychology is. If I hadn't convinced myself,
it's almost like it's a psychological game when it comes to analyzing something crazy.
Well, speaking of psychology, right here with this question, if I hadn't convinced myself already that I'm not going to guess this, and when I say repeat the question, and not just repeat the question to eat up time, but to actually listen to the full question again. It's a lesson. This is a lesson I have to learn as well. I'm good at it sometimes, but I forget. There's a lot of fundamentals to this. Look at that name, Naomi. If I listen to what the name of that woman is, Naomi, all the consonants and vowels of Margot Robbie are in that name. Robbie, Naomi, like if I just really listened to that question again, it would have popped. But I didn't. I was just using it to eat up time so I could convince myself I'm never going to get this. So anyway. But look at that. Naomi, Margot Robbie, Naomi. Like,
that's a great association.
Yeah. Yeah. If I had listened to the question again when I had it repeat rather than just use it, I knew because I knew the actress I'm trying to think of. But,
yeah. Definitely
right.
Something that I think everyone has kind of those questions where it's just like they know they should know it, but for some reason they're not pulling it, and it's that one question that just they can choose to really harp on that, or you learn from it and you move past it.
Yeah, and that was only going to get us up to 26, so I had to save a repeat. I just had to save a repeat.
Yeah, at that point, you guys needed to hit your next two.
I mean, what are the chances the 3 and 5 are going to be impenetrable for us both?
With the caliber that you guys have shown, yeah, it's kind of it's similar to what Ben Bateman ran into with his match against Merle. Like, should not have hit those questions that he missed.
Yeah.
He put himself in a great position to win that game and just wasn't able to pull it there at the end. So you guys definitely positioned yourself well initially. So I think it was just, and new releases as Zipper's 3-point question. That's Perry's wheelhouse,
right.
And they definitely pull a pretty obscure new release. And this year's new releases in general are just.
But the photograph, I mean, that film does stick out to me in retrospect. It's like, oh yes, the photograph. But Zip's so good with the new releases also that when he brought up something, I mean, not that I can engage in this, I have to let him answer it on his own. The photograph wouldn't have come to me; it would have come to him. But also the cut he goes for, it's like that's why you do a match with Zip. Like he knew that other movie. I've never heard of that other movie. The fact that he can access that movie that he got wrong for this one, the fact that he knows that movie, that makes Z an ace.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely the complementariness of your guys' knowledge is definitely something that other people should be looking out for. Definitely, because it's definitely the potential is absolutely there. So
you missed it, Alex. I blew it. I didn't get Margot Robbie.
One of these days, we're going to watch this match and you are going to hit it. I do that with movies. Like, one of these days, it's not going to happen.
I would not study if you were entering a match against me.
That's a fair assessment.
But of course, what makes this a 5-pointer here is removing.
This is a 5-pointer.
But what makes this a 5-pointer is the removal of the name Gerard Butler.
Yes.
But you know what? All the comments, I thought this was a hard question. Although actually it's not a hard question. O'Shea Jackson Jr. is only in 5 movies. 50 Cent is only in 5 movies. But I can't name all 5 of those movies.
I'll say if those movies aren't necessarily in your, if those aren't really in, yeah.
Could I give you a question, Adam?
Sure, we'll see if I can get it after this match. Sure, give me a question.
Okay.
I've not proven myself great at answering them.
Okay, let's see. I was very proud of this question when I asked it in our little training session. What spy comedy has the 2003 spy comedy has the following actors: Bernie Mac, Mac LeBlanc, Demi Moore, and Shia LaBeouf.
Whoa, that's
Ooh.
2003 was Shia LaBeouf, Demi Moore, Bernie Mac. 2003 spy movie.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Mac. Are you leaving some names off this cast? 2003 spy movie. See, now we're at the 15 seconds.
Spy
Repeat the
action
question.
comedy.
Action comedy? Spy
Mhm.
action comedy. Repeat the question.
What 2003 action spy comedy has the following actors: Bernie Mac, Matt LeBlanc, Demi Moore, and Shia LaBeouf?
Wow. Wow. That's a really good question.
Once you hear it, you're gonna like.
Right. It's going to drive me nuts, isn't it? 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll say nothing. I can't. No, that ain't it.
It's Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is. Oh my gosh.
I was very
yes.
proud when I pulled that question.
That's a great one. That's a great one.
That's
yeah,
good.
Bernie Mac takes over for Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Shia LaBeouf's in there, of course. Why wouldn't he be?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great one. Good
Okay,
question.
so we're gonna be going. Okay, so the match is over and done with.
Clearly.
This match is over and done with. It is your last match of the season. Now, this was your first.
I mean, of the season, if I have any
first,
choice, but it might be the last match total once Christian takes a look at my stats. But yeah.
Oh no.
Also, I mean, like if that was like, I mean, like there's a lot of competitors that are. I don't like to say worse situations than you, because I feel like that's kind of, I feel like that's mean. But
0-5?
There's a lot of.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're one of the competitors that I kind of put in the wheelhouse is like Rachel Silvestrini or Video Drew as well, where I really don't feel like your record reflects your knowledge.
Paul Preston this year, certainly.
Yeah, because you're clearly very knowledgeable.
Paul Preston's going to
there's,
destroy
like,
some people
small
next season.
Well, it's like, and you're an asset to any faction you're part of, you're any team,
Mhm.
which comes down to our next segment of our show. And guys, I just want to apologize for my internet's being wonky. So thank you for
She's
your.
working off her phone.
I've been dropping in and out. I'm on my hotspot on my phone. So
I just want to say, as the old guy, I'm shocked any of this works.
I too am shocked, to be completely honest. Well, we're going to be going into competitor profiles, but also beyond that, we're going to be going into our advice for competitors or for the future. There you go. Or the future specifically of these competitors as well. Now, from the numbers point of view, how do you feel about this team, team debut, but also by extension, how do you feel about, his performance specifically?
Zip's performance?
Oh,
yeah,
I was like, Megs, can ask how Megs felt about, like, from a numbers.
Oh, sorry, you're asking Megs, yeah.
Yeah, so looking at, Witt, obviously I'm only able to pull from what you were able to do with the movie guys with Paul originally. Zipper, I can go a little bit further back. He had a few more other teams matches prior to this, as well as some singles. I think as a team, and from what I've seen and what I've been hearing talking to you guys, there is definitely a good complementary knowledge base. I think there has just been a couple tough questions there towards the end that have kept things from really catching speed and really moving forward. So I would say, keep going with where you're going, and things will start catching up. So I really liked seeing you with someone like a Zipper who can bring in more of those newer movies and that more almost comic booky, but more like those more higher end franchises, as well as your knowledge of some other maybe older movies or some definitely like those director filmographies that you really like to concentrate on. Those types of things are a great asset within a team chemistry, definitely.
Well, thank you.
Overall, yes, Megs is wonderful. My big takeaway, for this match is that this match proved that you are a really great competitor. You have a really great extensive knowledge. However, I feel like you need to tighten up as far as strategy. Because you kind of said earlier, like you want to explain things, you want to. I think that's like you said, it's a performer in you, and
Taking
you
up
want
brain space.
Yeah, I mean, like you want to kind of dive into it. And that's also like like you said, how you kind of talk through answers and narrowing down things with Eric. It makes sense, but I feel like you honestly you were fantastic with Eric. I think that you might need someone, or at least Eric by extension, or like you said with you, where essentially need to just tighten up as a competitor and like, I don't want to say chill, but I don't like to say chill. That feels weird, but I feel like
no, that makes sense though.
Like almost like mellow out and like hyper focus a little bit more specifically, just because it's like you said, it's so easy for time to get away, and it's so interesting. So I honestly think that Kaiser, he would be lucky to have you next season. I do think this match also proved to me that honestly, I think you and Eric and Robert Parker are going to be his core trio.
Yeah.
For next season. That's what my gut's telling me. Just because Eric is clear to me, he's fantastic. He's really, really fantastic. He's wonderful. He can compete in 3 leagues, and same as you, being in singles teams and Star Wars, and that's very hard to come by.
Yeah.
But also, you guys work really well together, very well as competitor. As competitors, through not only your chemistry, but also your knowledge really bounces off really well together. And I think that you can really fine tune that as a team. A lot of those soften those edges, essentially, by competing more, essentially. So my big thesis is that you're going to be part of the core trio for next season.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I'm assuming that Smets is going to take the year off because he's got a lot of work and healing to do. I have a feeling that I was not going to be one of the 3 chosen. I think it was. Well, we'll see how this whole thing shakes out. But yeah, I think I have a much better chance of being a foundation to the dungeon while Smets is healing. So.
And I think we can't necessarily discount your prowess as being part of this process of preparing players, because you've also acted as a manager this year as well.
My only win this season. My only win.
Hey, I would take it.
And I love Vinny. I love Vinny. I love Drew. I mean, it's amazing how the draft ended up, that everybody ended up with the sort of tone and temperament of, their factions all ended up with the same temperament. People that are Finstock are very Finstock. People that are Dungeon are very Dungeon. The Den is very Den. The quirky mercs are very quirky mercs. Like, it's funny. Everybody ended up really where they should be. And so I'll be very curious how the draft goes this year. It's hopefully it's something we can figure out how to do in person,
I think a lot of things will get shaken up this year, and the pre-draft will be probably just as dramatic as the draft itself.
Right. I'm very curious how that's going to, how that's going. That's not going to be done just as like Facebook posts. That's going to have to be done as videos and stuff too. I'm assuming that's such a ready to be dramatized event, signings, which is new. This is the first time we'll be doing signings, or, people might get signed away, to other teams and stuff. I don't even know how that whole thing's going to happen, really.
Well, but, I do think, as evidenced through, actually, I have another theory. Honestly, I honestly think that because the horror free-for-all was as successful as it was, I believe it was filmed in like mid-October. It's like on the 17th or 18th or something like that.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, so something around then. But it really proved that like a smaller version of a free for all is very doable, having everyone in, that kind of sphere. I do think honestly that they're going to be how they're going to kind of tackle, because I do think they're going to make it a live event. They have to make not so much like a live event, but they're going to have to make it like at least a virtual event with people coming on screen and all that good stuff. So
you mean for the signing or the draft?
The draft. Yeah. So, so essentially like all the managers and everything, they're going to like do a group chat and everything before they're going to make the appropriate picks. They're going to do like pretty much a big Zoom call doing their draft that way. And it's not going to be recorded, but like a week later, or whenever it may be, then once they can like time it out efficiently, being like, okay, now we're going to bring Adam Witt at this time. Now we're going to bring Shannon. It's going to make her pick number 5 at this time. So I can space it out effectively. That's how I think that they're going to be doing it, just because you have to do but they will have to do the draft itself. They have to dramatize it.
But then they redo it as a dramatized version of it. Yeah. That would be.
They know who to bring in, they know who to take out, they know they have everyone and timed ready to go, like who's going to be in the waiting room.
Right. Yeah.
That's that makes a lot of sense.
It's very doable. Okay, so we kind of focused on Adam for a minute specifically. Now, Megs, what about the numbers, analyzing the numbers behind Eric as a competitor, and how do you feel about, like you said, he competed in IG, singles, and teams, obviously, this entire season, really fantastic. And how do you feel about him going into the next season?
So him going into next season, he definitely can present himself as a triple threat. Because when he was with World's Finest, he was definitely the stronger player between him and Winston. His numbers kind of play that out. Like in general, like he has been a 6, 5, even up to 7-point player on average in round 1. And again, kind of his newer base knowledge with his IG knowledge definitely makes a great complement for someone who has more of the classics, or somebody who is much more honed in on those more directors. But he also has a pretty wide base as well. He just does sometimes focus a little bit more in on IG, because that is something that he is already well prepped for. And his match against Stacey Howard, one of the best singles matches we saw in that early part of the season. I would love to see it still be. I would still want to see it be nominated for Match of the Year, because that was just the polls she was pulling. There wasn't anything he could do.
Those two should be a team.
Those two would be interesting. They would be interesting. But I definitely think that he is someone that has yet to have that season. I'm almost seeing him as similar to, I've done analyzing of, say, Ben Bateman's early career. Like those first couple seasons, he was good, but he hadn't quite hit his stride totally until you saw him in that 2019 singles tournament, where he just took off. And I see that Zip could very well next season, if he tightens some things up in strategy, if he tightens up on how he approaches the wheel, how he approaches knowing what he wants and what he doesn't want, that is going to just tighten up his game in general and propel him into that next level that he is very well capable of. He has the passion for it, definitely.
The man is going to win a belt. I do want to clarify that. It is a fact. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of flipping time. The man has ambitions, and it's gonna happen, y'all. Just calling it now. I'm just speaking it into the universe. Just what's the way it is. Yeah, I mean, you guys are both like clearly fantastic competitors, incredibly knowledgeable, and you guys bounce off each other really well. I would hate to kind of see you guys, disperse onto separate teams of factions. If you guys are on separate factions. So maybe my thesis is more like what I hope to happen. I also like, even hypothetically, if you two were in different with a different manager, I still really, really want you guys to work together, be on the same team, whether it be under, because I think honestly you two Kaiser's really great. He's amazing. I love Kaiser.
If you say so.
Oh snap!
We have fun here.
I would say every competitor kind of works a little bit different. As in their relationship with the managers. I honestly think that you two need a more strategy focused manager, because Kaiser's very focused on story, character, and everything, and he's gonna make you feel like $1 million going into it. But I think you kind of need someone to really kind of tone it down and like recenter you.
Yeah.
So like I feel like Kaiser and Kate and Dagnino are kind of similar that way. I think honestly someone like Winston, Coy,
Sure.
would do Roxy. Oh my gosh, Roxy, I think would be perfect for you to really kind of help, really kind of like bring you in and just kind of help focus you in, just like what she's able to do with Snyder. And that's why Roxy and Snyder are perfect together. She's able to kind of really kind of hone in on and be like, hey, dude, get your shit together. You got this. Focus. You got your challenges. You got your JTEs. Got my finger wagging.
Yeah.
I
would do whatever Roxy tells me to. I probably have a weakness that way. Whatever Roxy says, sure. Walk into traffic? Yeah, all right. How wrong can she be? How wrong? Look at her. She's great. She's so great. How wrong can she be? I'll be right back.
I really think that you guys would do tremendously well with a manager to really kind of help bring you in, when needed. Because Kaiser, as amazing he is, he's very focused on like you said, the vibes, the person, the character, and everything. But I don't think that's what you need right now.
He's a goofball.
That's just
the
world into goofballism.
The world needs goofballs. It's all good.
Well, if the world didn't need goofballs, then nobody'd like the dungeon. But
we did get a few super chats, by the way, from
there were a few more.
Super chats.
Your live chat wants to know your favorite Tarantino films. Mine is Pulp Fiction. Ooh, whoa. But I haven't seen Inglourious Bastards enough. IDK. Ooh, do you have a Tarantino movie?
The one I've been obsessed with that I watch over and over. The great thing is, like, ever since I was a kid, ever since we had a VCR and you could watch movies over and over, I have been a big watcher of, like, I watch movies till I get sick of them, and then I put them away for a while. And so Tarantino makes me so happy because I'll do that with his movies, even though I've kind of put that away with a lot of other movies, Like, I used to watch Star Wars till I was completely sick of it, and I put it away for a while. And But this year I've watched Hateful Eight like a bunch. In fact, I did. Hateful Eight. Hateful Eight. Oh, Hateful Eight's great. Oh my gosh, that pacing and the dialogue and everything, and just how the whole idea that you don't know. The whole movie is about who's telling the truth, and nobody's telling the truth. Everybody's got a fake, except for there's maybe two characters that are being honest. The sheriff, the new sheriff, which nobody believes is the new sheriff. The guy from Walton Goggins, right? It says he's the sheriff and nobody believes him. By the end of that movie, that's the one thing that's true. Nothing that Sam Jackson said was true. Like everybody's spinning a yarn. Everybody's telling a tale. Of course, all the people that are there when they get to Minnie's haberdashery are not telling the truth. And then you get these changes of perspective and stuff. It's just so masterfully done. And the idea of doing a 70 millimeter snowy Western, right? So snowy Western's rare. And again, as a New Beverly guy, Tarantino showed a month worth of snowy Westerns before Hateful Eight was shown. There for a month. The wide Panavision snowy Western, to do that whole idea, this vista, and all the promo stuff was all the mountains with the snow and all this stuff. And then he locks you in a cabin for the rest of that movie. There's no vistas after that point. There's no snowy horses. That's at the very beginning and then at the second act. And the rest of that time, that giant wide vista, it's almost like he tricks you. That giant wide vista is just used to show things that are happening in the cabin because you're locked in. Like Reservoir Dogs, you're in one location. He did Reservoir Dogs again But as a Western, I mean, it's just like there's so much going on in that. Is all the social dynamics of like the 8 characters. It's just so good. It's just there's so much going on between every line in that movie. So I watched that one over and over and over right now. But Inglourious Basterds might be his best movie. That's the one I got obsessed with last year. I watched over and over. And that movie is extremely well done. I mean, that's a really, really good movie. That might be his best movie.
I disagree. I say that of love, but it's all.
You're a Death Proof fan, huh?
No, I mean, I really loved Hatefully. I didn't love it as much as you, but I definitely love a lot of things that it did. But my favorite Tarantino movie is Jackie Brown. I love Jackie Brown. I love Jackie Brown so much. Oh, so good. Anyway,
that gets better each time I watch it, but they all do actually.
So great. Okay, what about you, Max? What's your favorite Tarantino movie?
So Tarantino is actually one that I have not spent a lot of time with. I am aware of most of his movies, but they are not ones that I have devoted the time to actually sit down and watch. Definitely something that I am looking into doing. But but hey, I can get into dude movies, so it's all good. But yeah, it wasn't something that I was exposed to early on. So it's like I have to force myself to expose myself to it now because it wasn't in my purview growing up. So
you mean you didn't have 4 copies of Reservoir Dogs stolen from the video store while you worked there?
No, I did not have that joyful experience.
You guys got Reservoir Dogs? No. They're $100 a copy.
Oh goodness.
Oh my gosh, I miss the video store experience. I really do. I do so much.
I have a whole box or a whole stack of movies to watch. Oh.
This is what's so crazy. Somehow, when things went to streaming and free at one point, everything was free for a second on the internet. I still have friends. This happened the other night. I was watching I had an all-night horror fest at my place. And we said, let's watch The Fog. I don't have The Fog. So I went immediately to Apple TV and rented The Fog. And magically, The Fog is already in my house. But my friend goes, you don't have to. Oh, you have to rent it. Oh, you don't have to. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, it's the exact same price it was in 1990, first of all. I don't know how the movies still rent for the same price they were in or at least 2000 or whatever. Like, it's $4. And I'm like, and we used to rent $20 worth of movies in 1985 every weekend. And I'm like, $4? You won't spend $4 on a rental? Why? Because you're hoping to find it on. I don't even get that, but that's me. I'm a movie guy, and I'm like incensed. And I yell at people. I do that too. Like if somebody's like, oh, you know what? I'd like to watch Candyman. I'm like, I go and first check. Is it on Amazon? Is it on whatever? It's like, no, it's not on there. I go, fine, we'll rent it. So $3 for Candyman. And people would be like, oh, you have to rent it. Don't worry about it. I'm like, I used to rent $20 worth of movies in 1985 prices every weekend. I'm like, of course I'm going to rent it. I'm supporting the industry too. And I get pissed at people. I will lecture them. I'm like, you go home after this and you rent a movie. The next time you come across something on YouTube and you go, oh, I have to rent it. I'm like, you rent that movie.
Oh, I mean, I've kind of because I host the show called Cinema Bias with Video Drew, and we've come in that situation where, unfortunately, sometimes we pick movies that are unstreamable anywhere. Like,
sure. Well, I understand that happens.
Yeah, and it's just like
literally unavailable. Like you gotta go
dive into the movie The Piano directed by Jane Campion, and nowhere.
Really unstreamable, huh?
Like, and I was just like, this is an Oscar-winning movie. It won like 3 Oscars. Like, how does?
Sounds like a Criterion. Sounds like a job for Criterion Channel.
Yeah, and I was like, it has to be available somewhere. It's not exactly like a super duper indie situation, but nowhere.
And not a DVD that everybody has either.
Yeah.
Right.
We did get another super chat.
Sorry, look at this guy. What a supporter. Thank you so much, dude.
He's great.
This makes a big difference.
He's amazing. So yeah, absolutely supporting us. Wonderful. Sorry to be off topic, but I rewatched Taxi Driver and There Will Be Blood. I enjoyed both films. What are your thoughts?
Taxi Driver was the first movie I saw at the Alamo Drafthouse in Texas. I was there repping a film that I had produced. And I, as I said, I'd heard about the legendary Alamo Drafthouse, and I was like, everybody else is going out and drinking and stuff, and I did that too. But after everybody had like settled in for the night, I was like, I'm going to see a midnight movie at the Alamo. Nobody else went with me. They're all there for a film fest. I'm like, come on, and it was Taxi Driver, and I watched Taxi Driver. And you know what? I like seeing movies by myself, frankly. So it's like. It's seeing a movie with someone I love, but very frequently, movies are best enjoyed for me by myself. I mean, at the New Beverly, I have probably seen 200 or 300 movies of the New Beverly. I bet I've seen 10 of those with other people. I mean, very few, maybe 20 or 30, but yeah, the Taxi Driver just by myself at midnight in Austin, Texas. Oh, that was such a good moment. Yeah, Taxi Driver, that's a hell of a film, man. That movie really sinks you into the isolation of that character, which, if you're watching a movie all alone, not all alone, but it's that isolation that movie, but that's also a weird movie. That movie shocked me in more ways than one the first time I saw it, because it's weird that he goes to assassinate a president and then doesn't, and then ends up saving Jodie Foster.
A president? I thought it was like a mayor or senator. Right.
Mayor or senator. Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm thinking of John Hinckley, who tried to kill Ronald Reagan for Jodie Foster, getting the idea from Taxi Driver.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Great pick. Yes, I absolutely agree, especially when it comes to certain movies. I'm sure Megs, you can agree, because we've tried over before where some movies, especially if you're going to go see Avengers Endgame, there's a lot to be taken going to the full theater. And I'm sure all y'all in the chat can agree with me. There's something, so celebratory, being part of like the group where you're all like going to banding together. Like I feel like I remember seeing Inception for the first time, and I was like, I really didn't like it. And then I went by myself, but I saw it like part of a packed theater. It was a completely different experience. And I was surprised at how much that kind of community aspect. So every movie is kind of a little bit different, but yeah.
So my favorite one that I've seen by myself is I went to go see Ford v Ferrari in a theater by myself. And I went by myself. There were some other people there, but it was a fairly late show. Had to force myself to not drive like a race car driver when I left the theater, but that was a great experience.
It's so funny you mentioned that. When I went to go see the movie Drive, the Ryan Gosling movie Drive, and there's lots of driving in that as well. And I was coming home, and it was the sort of thing where you're like, "Ooh, I'm behind the wheel," that sort of thing. And I'm not driving that fast or whatever. But it was so weird, like the world had sort of shifted, that a bunch of drag racing guys zoomed around me, like while I was just driving, myself,
right
around, and then suddenly like three cars, you could hear them coming way far away.
Oh yeah,
like these night drivers people are constantly racing in LA, and all of a sudden I'm hearing this behind me, and I'm like, zoom, 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 and I was just like, wow, did the movie just kind of like manifest itself? The magic of movies, folks.
Yes. Very good. Well,
not kidding.
This has been amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. Before we wrap this up with a nice little bow with the cherry on top, we are going to get to 2 final super chats real quick, and we're just gonna wrap it up and kind of let you guys know what we're doing and all that good stuff. Anyway, Ben Rayner, my dude, Ben Rayner, so cool. He's also one of the hosts behind Mount Schmodown. So if you're not familiar, definitely check it out. He's a great new reactor show. But he says, thanks guys for a great show. I like the Hateful Eight too. Whammy! A fellow Hateful Eight lover for sure.
It's more and more rewarding each time you watch it.
Yeah, I've been told that a lot of people, a lot of people sometimes don't know what to think of it when they see it for the first time. But like you said, the more you watch it, the more you really enjoy it. You like notice the small things.
It's a movie that truly unfolds. That's the perfect word. Some movies are told stories. Some movies happen. others unfold, and that movie unfolds.
That's
Really
awesome.
something.
I love those kind of movies.
So good.
It's the stew that got me thinking. That whole thing. I had stew. But that whole monologue. God, he's got so many good monologues.
It's funny that to me, like, there's some movies that feel like a play. Like, to me, Hateful Eight feels like a play.
Very much a play. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, it being all like on like a heavy majority of it is like in one thing, like in one little set. It feels like a play. And honestly, I would actually love if I could like again, I didn't like I wasn't a huge fan of the movie, but it kind of grew on me the more I watched it. But that's a movie where I would be like, I would pay stupid money to see that movie in a play.
Oh, right.
And that.
Can
you imagine?
Oh, that would be awesome.
Love it.
Yeah.
I just want like more of that. I love like movies becoming like plays, like Beetlejuice, American Psycho, Mean Girls.
Yeah.
I love that trend. Okay, and our last question.
A lot easier to adapt than Mean Girls, I think.
Tina Fey, yeah, she did it. She was like one of the head producers or directors. You can't find Young Frankenstein anywhere. What?
Well, he's saying you not like on it. It's not going to pop up on Netflix, is what he's saying.
Right.
Yeah. Unless
it's not one of those ones that'll suggest itself to you on Amazon or whatever. And that's probably like a rights thing, I mean, it might be, it might be held back because I know HBO Max has Blazing Saddles, and maybe because now there's all these different competing services. So if HBO Max owns the rights to all of Mel Brooks' movies right now, it's not going to go to Amazon, not going to go to Netflix. So this is going to become the thing. The rule more than, but yeah, that's why you buy it on digital. Yeah.
You're getting a lot more contracts with directors being like, well, all your movies for the next like 15 years kind of thing are going to be distributed through this company or studio, whatever it may be. So we're definitely in a new time where this is definitely a very new premise for sure. But he continues to say, I buy movies on digital, that way I could watch more than once. It's great.
Yeah, and Ben reminds me that I got free from somebody. In fact, it was like a swag bag for something, and somebody had left it behind, and it had a Blu-ray copy of Young Frankenstein in it. It was like some sort of swag thing. I can't remember what this is for, but it's just I got it accidentally, and I was just reminded. So the other night I had a all-night horror fest, and I own a lot of things on streaming as well, but I am that dickhead, I'll say, that guy that says when I'm watching something streaming, yes, it looks better than VHS ever could, and yet I can see it's not perfect. And so we watched like 2 movies on streaming, which I owned on streaming, and then when it came to Nightmare on Elm Street 3, I was like, oh, I got to break out the Blu-ray for that. So I break out the Blu-ray player and everything. And the majesty of watching an actual Blu-ray compared to streaming is significant. And he just reminded me that I have and I was just blown away because I don't always plug the DVD player in, the Blu-ray player in. I've got other formats and, like anybody else, I'm not, I don't always pull everything out to watch it in that format. But he just reminded me that I have the Blu-ray for Young Frankenstein, and that looks stellar. And I think I'm going to watch that tonight. Thank you, Ben.
You just remind him of this awesome thing he's going to do tonight. Yeah. And also, thanks for your very generous donation through Super Chats.
Yeah. $14.99, the price of a Blu-ray. that's a price of a DVD. Everyone go buy Hard Media.
Right there.
Oh,
I also like to say my favorite Star Wars movie is Spaceballs.
Don't get me started on this conversation.
I love Spaceballs so much.
I don't know. There are no honorary Star Wars movies. And people say that, and what they are trying to do is gather the energy of the great observation that Galaxy Quest is one of the best Star Trek movies. That is a Star Trek movie. Spaceballs is not a Star Wars movie. Sorry.
Well, sir, I hear you and I respect that. But no. Okay,
This is
so
from,
we're
this is
going to
coming
be
from Dulce Dauphine here, okay? So,
we're going to be wrapping things up here, guys. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much to Christopher Atkinson, Ben Rayner, Mukbang Reviews, Matt LeBiggie, all these amazing people, Danny Coast, everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight and doing this match breakdown. It really means so much to us too, not only for you guys to donate and just chat along with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. So, Adam, where can we find you? All the amazing stuff you're doing and your overall beautiful face.
oh, God bless you. You guys really know how to cheer me up. I was really on a bummer after that match, by the way. That match did not sit well with me. And now I guess I make my peace with all these goddamn matches. But what you can do is if you're on Twitch, look up Chicago for Real. My friend just started it. It's a station. It runs programming every day. There's a new program, and we'll run old programs. But my sketch comedy troupe, Schadenfreude, is reuniting on Chicago for Real tomorrow. And so they are the funniest people on earth. But also the other funniest person on earth, Paul Preston, and I just did a parody, which I believe is the first parody of the Schmoedown. Has anyone done a full-on parody of the Schmoedown until Paul and I did? We just did a match. So. Yeah, we just did an exhibition match for a single movie, very obscure, dumb thing to do an exhibition match about, and that is the movie, the 2008 movie about the invention of the intermittent windshield wipers with Greg Kinnear, flash of genius. And we have Ken Knapsack versus Janine, and they are managed by Kevin Smets and John Kaiser. And
that is awesome.
It is a full parody match with the wheel and everything. So go check that out. That's on the Movie Guys. So that's the Movie Guys. Movie Guys YouTube.
Channel called again?
What's that?
The Twitch channel.
The Twitch was Chicago for Real, number 4. Chicago for Real. Do you see that?
Okay. Yes, I am just gonna pull it up so I can put it in the chat real quickly. Yeah,
that's run by former host of WGN Radio, Justin Kaufman, my comedy partner for many, many decades now, and my comedy troupe that I'm still with, but we don't perform as much as we used to. We're all going to be on there tomorrow, which is great to launch because he just launched the station this week, but he's got a different show every day, and they run a lot of stuff. He's really putting a lot of work into creating a full-on, full-service station. So it's going to be fun. So that's Friday. What day is it today?
Today is Thursday.
Man, I lose track. I used to feel like such a dork around what are days. I used to feel like such a dork that I would forget what day it is. That's island time is what it is. And now that's perfectly acceptable. I used to feel bad that I didn't go to the beach that often. That is now perfectly acceptable. I used to feel bad that I didn't leave the house some days. That is perfectly acceptable. I'm just saying COVID may be here to make me feel like not the outcast I felt I once was.
All things come back around.
Here to emotionally support you.
Hugs, everybody. Hugs. There we go.
Yes, all the hugs.
It's kind of funny. Like I've talked with Lucas about it. I was like, it's kind of funny when all these regulations and everything happen, and honestly, nothing about your day-to-day life changes. In my case, nothing about my life changed.
Right.
And so where can we find you, your beautiful face, and as well as all of your fantastic stats, girl?
Yes. So here on the C2A channel, you can find me doing breakdowns with this amazing lady over here. I almost did it correct the first time. But then as far as seeing all the other stats, if you're on the MTS Facebook page or any of the faction Facebook pages, I put all the stats up there that I do for the matches. As well as personally, you can find me at Megs_reclaimed on Twitter and Instagram. I've got all the stats up there as well as some just stuff that I do on a regular basis in my personal life. So if you want to check that out, come on over.
But just want to give you guys a heads up, all that good information is down in the description box below. If you didn't have time to copy and paste all that stuff, it's all in the little box below. So kind of keep that in your Noggin. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And I'm Alex Mack, part of the Call to Action crew, and you can find me hosting Schmobates every single Wednesday, except this Saturday, where I'm going to be having a Schmobate with the one and only Stacey Howard, killing it, being part of the rock stars, and she's going to be my co-host / judge for this Saturday evening. So definitely come hang out with us. And also, just want to give you guys a heads up, next week is the Smash-a-thon on the 14th, so definitely kind of put that on your schedule. It's going to be a huge thing with a whole bunch of Schmodown personalities, a whole bunch of reactors. I know Adam's going to be involved. I know, I'm going to be involved.
Paul and I have a bit we're working on.
Awesome.
So many people.
So look forward to that.
Many people. So much fun stuff. So many games and everything. And we're raising money for an amazing cause, which is, Kevin Smet's the GoFundMe page. So if you don't know, he's definitely going through a hard time, but him and his beautiful, amazing young family, are in need of some financial support through these very troubling times. And so every dollar counts. So guys, thank you so much for, donating, because every dollar counts. All right. Have a great rest of your day. Wear a mask and keep watching movies, especially Young Frankenstein. So, see ya.